Yeah, we good. Yeah, but
1, 2, mic test, mic test, mic test. 1, 2, mic test. That's okay? All right.
all right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Are you happy? Are you happy? No, I'm not hearing you. Are you happy? Make some noise. Are you happy? That's what we want to hear. We want to see the youth energy. I know the sun is hot and you have taken that cap. You know what it does after when the sun is hot, huh? Especially if you don't have any air core around you to send you to sleep. But I'm sure we will manage with this. And welcome to yet another edition of our National Youth Dialogue Town Hall meeting. Last week, we were at the Kanifing municipality, talking to young people in Kanifing area on what are some of their perceptions about these reforms that are taking place, but also what are some of their recommendations or suggestions to improve these different reform mechanisms being established by the government of the Gambia. One thing that came out clear is the fact that citizens put government in office. And the reforms that the governments initiated are not for the government, but they are for us, the citizens. So how those reforms are carried out and the impact that follows those reforms are about our lives. So it's important and prudent that we understand how those reforms are evolving. What direction are they taking? Are we satisfied? What are our concerns? And provide these feedbacks to government, to the mechanism that have been established by government. This can ensure ownership, but it can also ensure that the reform mechanisms outcomes have greater impact on our lives and for posterity. But we will have that dialogue tomorrow to provide that feedback. This first set of conversation today is forced to allow ourselves, young people, to have a conversation among ourselves in the absence of other generations, like you were having in the morning in your smaller groups. To ask critical questions and clear your doubts and perceptions. And later in the day, like you can see on this high table, we have an intergenerational. We understand that for meaningful youth engagement, meaningful youth participation, it does not mean it only have to be youth initiated, youth directed, and for youth. Young people can initiate, but they can also have a conversation with the older generation, but also have a conversation with those outside the cycle. I mean, those who are not within the conventional or the mainstream youth, so that we can also hear their feedback, their advice, and guidance. And without doubt, we had done it in KM. This turn is for West Coast region. You will definitely come to learn a lot from these industrious sons and daughters of Gambia and Africa to share their experiences with you and to also inspire you. Because regardless of the industry we belong, we must be inspired to take on citizenship, responsible citizenship for that matter, to understand the role of mainstreaming gender and respecting gender equality, to also understand self-reliance. How do we become that patriotic young person who is passionately in love with his country and can do anything to ensure his country progresses? But to talk to our policy makers, our lawmakers, who can engage us as to how we should be able to play our role effectively in nation building. And talk to our young people who are in the transformation to help us also understand the rule of law. We cannot actually live in a jungle. We must live in a society that is guided and organized. And that cannot happen without adhering to rule of law and respect for human rights. Again, what will be the relationship between young people and the security? And trust me, we have our able moderator, our very own Fatma Sise, who has been tremendous well in our media industry to moderate this session. So join me in welcoming Fatma Sise, who will take us through and introduce the people, the panelists, and of course will lead us into the rest of the session. And again, if you know you are with us, you are not sleeping or not dozing off. If you know you are really with us, if you really know you are with us, put your hands together for Fatma Sise. Thank you very much. I can see you are all with us. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much, Lamin. And it's good to be here with all of you. But like we normally do it, let's start the session with prayers in our own ways in just a minute. Amen. May all the prayers be answered. And to make sure we are all together here and we are not dozing, just like Lamin mentioned, because I understand the chef is very powerful, the Benachin plus the Wanjo. Let us just turn to the next person beside us, shake hands with the person and say, how are you? Good afternoon. How has the journey been coming to Fatima Senior Secondary School here in Buyam? You know, it's been a very long year. So let's turn to each other and ask that question in seconds. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Your right hand is holding the
yes.
Like, how are you?
I'm fine, Mr. Nyai. All right, I think that's a very good teaser. So distinguished guest speakers here present this afternoon, all the dignitaries here, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's a warm welcome to the Fatima Senior Secondary School here in Buyam, and of course to this most important session. It's a panel discussion, and it's part of the two-day program organized by the National Youth Council, and we understand they're on a countrywide tour discussing national youth dialogue on reforms in the Gambia. And of course, when you talk about reforms, our minds will click on the series of programs that have been rolled out by the Gambia government recently, that is the present government. And then when you talk about the reforms, our minds will go to the TRRC, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. We will think about the CRC, the Constitutional Review Commission, of course the security sector reform, and the establishment of the National Human Rights Commission here in the Gambia. So I have these distinguished guest speakers here who will be talking about some of those reforms. We have the TRRC, the CRRC, the Security Sector Reform, and the National Human Rights Commission, but of course other issues or other topics that are of relevance and pertinent to the advancement of the welfare of the youth of this country. So without further ado, I have this distinguished guest here with me, and then I was supposed to start with Saliu Tal. He is the leader of the Gambia We Want, and of course the president of the Gambia Bar Association, but unfortunately he is not here with us. But we will move on because we also have Mr. Mustafa Njai. He is commonly known as Taff. It's a household name in the Gambia. And he is the founder and CEO of Taff Global Africa. And it's good to have you here, Mr. Njai, with us this afternoon. And Mr. Njai will be talking us through self-reliant, just like Lamin briefed you earlier. He'll be talking to you about self-reliant this afternoon. And of course, we are hopeful that Mr. Njai will deliver up to expectation, as he has been doing in other forums. We also have Mariama Singate. It's a very familiar face. She's a counsel at the Truth, Reconciliation, Reparations Commission. And of course, Mariama will be speaking about or on the topic, the rule of law and the mandate of the TRRC. Put your hands together for Mariama Singate. We also have our host here in Fonyi Councillor District. He is the National Assembly member and member for Fonyi Councillor, Honorable Musa Amul Nyasi, who also has a topic, and he'll be speaking on the role of young people in promoting peace, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence. Put your hands together for our host, Honorable Musa Amul Nyasi. Next, we have Mariama Barry, and she is Chief Inspector of the Gambia Police Force. Mariama will be talking about the importance of cordial relationship between the youth and the security forces and how this could be honest. We know that point has been something a lot of people have been crying about in this country. And of course, we are privileged to have Mariama Barry in our midst here to talk about that very important topic. Put your hands together for Mariama. And of course, we have Madam Aissata Day. She is from the United Nations Development Program. She is the resident representative of the UNDP here in the country. And of course, later on in the program, I'll be engaging Madam Day on this particular topic, and this will be gender reforms and the peace building. And shortly, I had her mention just something briefly. And I'm a journalist, I was really listening very keenly. You're talking to Mr. Njai. So, of course, I'll pose that question to you, but she'll be talking about gender reforms and peace building. Put your hands together for Madam Day. So, that will be all for now. And let me just explain this to you briefly. We will be having a discussion. I'll be having a one-on-one interview with them. It will be very interactive. And then it is a 2-hour session. But at the end, we will have you all post questions to the respective speakers. And we will do it in this manner. You will tell us the speaker you would want to ask your specific question to save time. And then we will take questions maybe in 5s or in 6. And if time permits us, we will continue with another set of questions. But for now, that is the procedure it is going to take. So I am your moderator this afternoon, Fatima Tassise, and I was supposed to start with Mr. Salutal, the president of the Gambia Bar Association, but unfortunately he is not here because my questioning would have transitioned to Madam Mariama Singate from the TRRC, but unfortunately Mr. Tal is not here. Mariama, I'll start with you. And then you were here to talk about rule of law, and then Mr. Tal was supposed to be here to talk about responsible citizenship, and then the role a responsible citizen, especially the youth, will play in national development. And then hence he is not here. I would ask this question: has the rule of law got anything to do with youth?
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to my fellow panelists here. As she rightly introduced me, my name is Mariama Singate, and thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for that question. Does the rule of law have anything to do with youths? When you talk about the rule of law, it's about everyone else, and not only the adults. Gambia has over 65% of youths. So anything that has to do with the Gambia obviously has a lot to do with the youths. What is the rule of law? The rule of law simply entails that government and citizens of a particular country must operate within the ambit of the set rules and regulations for that particular country. When it comes to government, it provides that the government must have clear and written laws which are accessible to the citizens. That is number one. They must have an independent judiciary which citizens can easily access in order to litigate their dispute effectively. And it also entails that the government must provide an environment for free and independent press. That means people must have the opportunity to voice out their concerns. It also entails that the public institutions which the government set up must operate within the ambit provided by law. When it comes to citizens, it simply entails that each and every citizen must respect the laws of the land. Every citizen has a responsibility to respect the laws of the land. The rule of law is one of the major fundamental values of democracy. We all know what democracy is. It's a government for the people and by the people. If we vote a particular government in, we must ensure that the government is accountable for whatever promises it makes. But in order to do so, we must do it within the ambit provided by law. That is what the rule of law entails. Every citizen has a responsibility to ensure that we uphold the rules and regulations that guide the country. Failure to do so, there will be chaos and uprising all over the place. That's why we have those set of rules and regulations. Laws are not just there in the books for people to ignore. No. Laws are there for people to abide by. That's why we have the police for the enforcement of law, and we have the judiciary as well. So citizens must adhere to the rules set by the land. Thank you.
So, Mariama, I'm going to still ask this question. You've been talking about the citizen, and they should be law-abiding. And in fact, you were talking about in a democracy. But let's talk about the government as well. At one point, would we call a nation which is democratic and upholds the rights of citizens?
We have a system where a government is voted into power. That is a democratic process. So therefore, in all indication, we have a democratic government because we voted them into power. Now, no democracy is perfect, but there are set principles and values by which every democratic government must uphold. That, one, I've already mentioned those things. That is creating an enabling environment for the enjoyment of fundamental human rights. That's one of the major ones. Two, setting up institutions that will uphold those rights. Three, providing social amenities for the citizens. And this particular one that I've mentioned is only within the resources that they have. A government can only provide what it has. That is providing equal opportunities for all citizens. So from all indication, we do have a democratic government because we, the citizens, are the ones that voted into power this particular government. Now, with respect to certain things that may pop up, every democracy obviously has its challenges. But as citizens, we must ensure that we address those challenges within the ambit of law. We must respect the rule of law.
Right. Thank you very much, Mariam. I'll come back to you later because you also have another topic that you'll be discussing, and that is the mandate of the CRRC. We will come back to that momentarily, but I will now shift my attention to the Honorable Member of Fonyi Councillor District, in this Honorable Musa Amul Nyasi, and he's here to talk about the role of young people in promoting peace, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence. Now, Honorable Nyasi, how important are youth to the peace-building process of any nation?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for that very important question. Like my colleague rightly mentioned, Gambia have a population of 65%, all representing the youth folk. For peace to prevail in the country, we cannot underrate the role that the young people have to play. They are key in ensuring that the peace and stability that exists in the country is nurtured, and that they have a pivotal role. What is their role? Their role is to do advocacy among their mates, because as they are seated before us here, they are ambassadors of the youths of West Coast region. So if you have a handful of them here representing the entire youths of the West Coast region, then they have a very big responsibility that they need to carry out to the rest of the youths of the region. And one thing which is key is tolerance. You have to accept me for who I am and for what I am, because we have to understand that no man is perfect. I have my strengths, I have my limitations. So if you accept that from me, and I equally accept that from you, we will coexist. And we will be seen moving the agenda of peace and tolerance. We will be seen moving the agenda of development. But without that, it will be very difficult. You cannot change me overnight. It's going to be very difficult. Neither can I change you overnight. Because as we are seated here, maybe this is the first time some of us are meeting. So after spending 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours together, we will begin to see each other's limitations. So you have to accept me for what I am, and I will accept you for what you are. And I don't know whether it was the moderator. I had someone made mention or ask a question, are you inspired? And the answer was yes. But let me quickly share this with you before I hand over the mic to the moderator. Now that you are inspired, your inspiration should lead you towards how do we nurture the peace and stability that the Gambia is known for. I think that is what and where you should be inspired. And being inspired in that direction, it's only 1%. Inspiration is only 1%. 99% is for you to aspire to attain it. Therefore, the bulk responsibility lies in the hands of you for the peace and stability to continue, tolerance to exist, for us to coexist. We have the bulk of the responsibility. Thank you.
And Honorable Nyasi, I'll stay with you because you talked about nurturing peace in our society. And if you talk about peaceful societies, it's an environment where people live, where people coexist in harmony. And this, of course, includes the youth. And you've been talking about nurturing this peace in our society. Talk us through some of the steps that youth should adopt in nurturing this peace in our society.
Thank you. Well, I want to quote examples, and I want to share with you rather, my experience. The examples, the first person I'll give you as an example is your own youth leader here, Mr. Dabo, the Executive Director of the National Youth Council. Listen to me attentively, and I will share with you some tips about Lamin Dabo. Lamin was into youth work when I was earning salary. Then he was going to school. When I was earning salary, Lamin was going to school, and at the same time, he was doing some voluntary youth work. I can see a colleague of him behind, Dembo Kuyate. These are young people that have always valued who they are and what they are, and have always been aspiring to be where they are today. Like I said earlier on, they have people that inspired them, and they were trying to emulate how those people got to where they were. And they had the belief in them that they can make it happen, just as they have made it happen. So our core responsibility here is we should always remember that we come from a society. We come from a home. And in every home, regardless of the home you come from, there are norms and values that you are taught. And those norms and values have to do with peace, tolerance, and promotion of peace. How can you also do it, replicate it, and advocate for it? It has to do with how you learn from the elders. I remember one of my teachers told me that not everything you learn in the world have to be taught in the four corners of the classroom. Some of it you go out, you engage with people, you interact with people, and you try to read how they go about doing things. Try to study, make your own analysis, adapt what you think is adaptable, and then drop what you think is not adaptable. That is fundamental. So we must be cognizant of our social realities. If we want to do away with our social realities, we cannot make a headway. We are people with a religion. We are people that have culture. We have our norms and values. We must cherish them. They make the difference. They make us who we are. And the moderator, quickly, just let me share one example. I was in Holland. I was invited to the celebration of a foundation which was celebrating their 50th year in existence, Better Future. And I had the opportunity to make a statement, because then I was the alcalde of this village. Then I was only 31 years. So one good thing I shared in that forum was how we are able to look after each other, how we are able to know each other's whereabouts. Guess what? I told them in the morning, when my dad wakes up, before he passed away, unfortunately this was after my dad have passed away, after saying his early morning prayers from the mosque, he will come and sit out, wake everybody, and then sit at the veranda. So as you say your prayer, you come and say hi to him. That is how he is able to monitor and know who spent the night in the house, who did not spend the night in the house, who spent the night in the house and is not seen what is happening to that person. This has to do with our societal norms and values. Because then he would have sent an elderly person to go and check on him or her to know why he or she is not out. I say this is one thing why we are able to monitor and care for one another. The other good thing is we eat in one basin. When it is time to share lunch, we would know whether the resident rep is in the house or she's busy doing something else because he is not seen. So that's the beauty about our African society. That's the beauty about our Gambian society. This is how we are able to care for one another. This is how we are able to take care of one another. So the question is, we have to be cognizant of our social realities. Once we are cognizant of our social realities, we will be able to do the right advocacy, and we'll be able to accept one another and advocate for peace and tolerance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Musa Amul Nyasi. Of course, I will come back to you later, and I hope you're all taking notes, because you'll be asking questions later. But just to remind you, this program is funded by the United Nations Development Program, and that there is a Twitter handle. If you want to share this, you can just go on the social media and share it, and it is the hashtag Youth Dialogue GM. You can go on Twitter and share it, Facebook, and then of course on Instagram. So we are going to continue the discussion. Mr. Njai, I have not forgotten you. I'll come back to you shortly. But now I'll shift my attention to the inspector there on the far right, and then she's Mariama Barry. I have Mariama Squire with me here. And Inspector, let's talk about the relationship between the security, the police, to be specific, and the civilian. The relationship between these two has been bitter, or I would say sour, over the years, and it has a history. And recently you'll hear police civilians protest, police civilian arrest anti-crime. And there is this relationship which is very tense as we speak. So how important do you think it is to enhance this relationship between the police and the civilian, especially the youth?
Thank you very much, Madam Sise. It's an honor to be part of this noble gathering. First, I will begin with, I am a youth. And with that, I put emphasis. It's our responsibility as youth to govern and to own what we really love, which is our country. By extension, it's our right for the government to recognize us. To that, I said, the government should respect our dignity, our purpose, and then by that, we are all saying, we all have responsibility to work towards. Looking at the Gambia Police Force and then the security at large, we have our social responsibility, but notwithstanding, we equally have our international responsibility. Having the Gambia Police Force at this 10th level, I can say that it's a kind of bitter, but to those who have been interacting with few of us, will understand the dynamics where we want to be at. We want to maintain the peace and security of this country. It's all written in our laws. By that, we should all observe what is right and what is not right. We cannot shy away from the fact that we have problems, but with that, it's you who empowered us to say you must enforce these laws. And enforcing the laws, are we following the right things? That is, what needs to be done? Are we adhering to the principles? If yes, then where does the problem lies? There you can attack and say, yes, the police is not doing what is expected of them. But without meaningful engagement, I don't think we will come up with a result based as youth. To also put up that the Gambia Police Force came up with a strategic document sometimes back. It's all towards upholding the democratic principles that we all want to see. And it's a process. We are working hard towards meeting those mandates. But we cannot do it alone without partnering with the youth wing, which each and everyone can confirm that we have the 65% of the population. What are we doing towards maintaining the peace and security? Why can't we jealously save what we love, that is peace, which can never be traded with any violence? If I am to become a Gambian and said I will allow intruders to disturb my peace, am I playing justice to my country? What brought us together should be a key factor to be considered at all times. We cannot do away without loving what we love most. I think the question still goes to the importance. How can we partner between the Gambia Police Force and the Youth Fora? let's also emphasize that we have a community policing structures. We are trying to develop it. Security is evolving. It used to be force. Now we want to be proactive, where the servant leadership comes in. We want to serve you, but provided you want us to serve you. In that also, we are putting emphasis. Our doors are open. Let's dialogue and understand each other. We have people who doesn't want to see us rising as a country, but it's our responsibility as youths. We are growing. Today I'm here as a youth. Tomorrow I can be in the senior cadre. So where does the problem will lies at the end? If I can understand you better, why wouldn't you understand me? Like Mariama mentioned, we have the, what's it again? That's the rule of law. We have to uphold that. It's a regulation that is set for every one of us to abide by. Look at what does the Constitution talk about. Then you do what is right. We will not call it a problem, but then we want to remedy some of these problems. How can we do it best? I think should be a question to be asked by each one of us. We are not enemies, we are family members. Today I am an activist because I fall within the activist cadre, because I understand some of the rights and responsibilities. Equally, you can do it. Like she said, let's make a research. We understand where are we heading to. Why are we where we are? Then from there we can pick it up and change the paradigm. If you see us women working tirelessly towards the peace of this country, it's not because we don't want to see everybody happy, but that's the best that we want. With that, I thank you.
Mariama, still on the relationship between police and the youth and the citizenry as a whole, there seemed to be a gap, and then it has not been outlined. And if you can just please share with us some of those gaps and how they could be bridged.
The best way to bridge those gaps is our community engagements. As police, let me just put emphasis because that's my field of expertise. With that, we recently designed a zero draft community policing, of which is been sponsored by the UNDP. We are working towards that. It's a guiding document where everything will be clearly spelled out. How do we want to engage the youth and the general population at large? We are saying we must observe the rules of the game. That is what you want, we work towards that. We are not, like I mentioned earlier, we are not enemies, right? Life after work is there. What are we going to do as security sector? There are so many documents that are being spelled out, that is ranging from the National Security Advisor, that's the security sector reform policy document. You have so many of them as of now. But what is more important is let's just keep the patient and see the outcome of those documents. When they are officially launched, it's like every contribution matters here. There were questionnaires that were sent to people for people's contribution. It's not just about the security, but we need to hear from the civil sector. How do you want us to operate? Looking at the population size and the number that we have in hand. We are saying still, it's a thing that everyone has to own. There comes the national ownership. It's a document. We have the Constitution, which is also coming forward, whereas every citizen has contributed directly or indirectly. So also we are saying, in bridging these gaps, come to us. We have the Public Relations Office. If you feel that there are things that are not going right, we have now started establishing a data-informed decision-making. We've been following some of the social activities that has been going on, some of the complaints that we pick from that end, we bring it to our end, because we are youth, That's the best that we feel we can engage each other. We have quite a number of followers. So anything that we pick, if it is fact, we're going to investigate. If it is not factual, still we're going to investigate to establish the reality. From there, I think we are doing our utmost best. And looking at the Gambia Police Force, we are now grooming graduates, at least to do away with education no matter. We are saying it matters now, looking at where we are. Thank you.
Well done.
Mariam, I will come back to you. I would now shift my attention to Madam Aissata Day. She is the UNDP resident representative here in the Gambia. And ma'am, when you talk about national development or nation building, many organizations, international organizations, including the UNDP, will pay specific attention to gender, reforms, security, peace and security building. Earlier, I heard you say whether there is a women ward councillor here. Why is that so?
Thank you. I'm really delighted to be here today and to hear what I just heard from the councillor, from Honorable the councillor, from the representative of the police, from yourself. And I think the reason why I was asking as soon as I arrived here how many women are in the councillor is that without full participation of all members of the society, it's like it's a non-complete process. And we all know, as you mainly spell it, youth are 60% of the population. And if you look at those 60%, the majority are women. And the women's representation, the women's participation in all the processes, because as I said, we cannot achieve development without peace and stability. But at the same time, we cannot build a nation, we cannot build a strong foundation without the full participation of all the composition of the nation, especially women, which present go beyond the numbers, because it's proven that when you have full participation of women, the improvement of all lives is reality. And we come a long way, not only Gambia, but as a global engagement. And we know also that we have agreed as Gambia to achieve global development goals, and especially the Agenda 2030, which is main principle is to leave no one behind. The reason why UNDP has initiated and supported this important activity and actions is not only to gather the youth, but also to mark the historic moment that the Gambia is going through. Because when you look at where we are and how many people are participating in the process, and how many people are watching at the Gambia, owning those processes, I think this is a defining moment to build foundation for future generation, a future without fear, the future with strong principles, but mainly a future based on accountability toward the people for what they share. And we know that UNDP, as a backbone of the development, is fully committed and has been a long partner with not only the government of the Gambia, but all sectors of the Gambia. We are sitting with one of our main actors of the private sector. We are sitting with the youth, the women. And for each of the sectors, you cannot have achievement of the full goals without equal gender, without gender equality. And we came even long way because we have a certification within our organization to make sure that every action, I would not say in terms of present, but every action reflects the aspiration, the importance of having equal programs and activity that can impact both men and women. Because most of the time when we talk about gender, the understanding is saying, oh, they are coming again, they are taking our seats, or no. It's how, with the balance that we want, is the equality, we can have we achieve the common goals, but we also make sure that the common goals for the society are there for everybody. This is a defining moment in terms of not only participation of the youth, and I think that what Madam Bari just said in terms of, I would say the youth-sensitive policing, because we came out with gender-sensitive policing, and we have the wrong way. But the idea of having a youth-sensitive policing, that we will be working through the community policing, will provide more space for also dialogue, but in terms of anticipation and listening to each other, and make sure that the full participation is there. Thank you.
Right, Madam Day, thank you very much. I will also come back to you. I have Mr. Mustafa Njai right next to me. I've been skipping him from the left to the right. And Mr. Njai, it's your turn now. And we've been talking about security, peace building, how to nurture them. And we all know in the end, we all want to become somebody, and that is a self-reliant person. And that is, of course, your topic of discussion, self-reliance. To start with, tell us, who is a self-reliant person?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Let me just follow the protocols to say a big thank you to our host, the honorable member, and members of the other side of the table. I would start by just saying that, I'm a bit nostalgic here, because 27 years ago, I built the Fatima High School. So I'm sure, I'm sure most of you here were not born then. So driving here today brings me good memories. And Madam Moderator, I guess this is no coincidence. The reason why you gave me the microphone last is because I'm the oldest here. You can see my white bear. And from there, before I get into your answer, I will quote Alaji Malik C of Tiwawan. You know what he said, and Alaji Malik C died, decades ago. I think it was in the 1920 something or so. What he said then was that he is worried about any gathering that is made of only youth or young ones. And he's equally worried about any gathering that is only made of the elderly. So for any society to move, there must be a mix of all ages. And when you have that, you have active and very good dialogue. Because some people who are sitting there will not understand the things as I see the world at my age, and vice versa. So I love this. Thank you very much for doing this. Now, going back to responding to your question. Self-reliant, as I said last week, is about believing in oneself. That you must be confident that you can do something. That you must be confident that you can break the glass ceiling. Therefore, then you can be self-reliant. You must believe in yourself. In Wolof, it's the word or the phrase, gom sa bopa. And I love examples. Now, the issue of gom sa bopa and believing in oneself. Who is the best example in the world today? A political leader that I'm sure all of you knew. Who came and changed the paradigm completely in the world? Barack Obama. Why? He was young. At what age was he a president? 42. He was African American. And then of what? His dad was from where? Kenya. From Kenya. And his name, during the time when people were thinking about what's his name? Terrorism. His name was what? Barack Obama. And who? Saddam Hussein. The names were very similar. But what did he say? What was his slogan? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. He believed in himself. He believed in his team and he won. So therefore, at your age, you should first believe in yourself. Never feel entitled, which is the norm today. Oh no, this government is not looking after the youth. Oh no, my dad doesn't give me enough money. Oh, my mom this, oh, my big sister doesn't do that. No, I think you should believe in yourself and believe that you can do it right. So self-reliant, Madam Coordinator, is about the belief that one can do it by himself or herself. And at times, at a very young age. Last week I said that when I roam around, I travel a lot in West Africa. All over the world, but in West Africa. What we see in places like Nigeria or even Ghana, you'll find that a 10-year-old girl or boy will go to school. After school, they will put a plate on their head with some peanuts or some fruits, whatever, and go and sell. Now, don't underestimate these things, because that young girl or young boy normally would have his own clients, and he knows or she knows how to sell them. And that's how you develop entrepreneurship. Don't underestimate it. So I don't only want to answer the question, but I want to relate self-reliant to our everyday lives. For example, looking around anywhere in the Gambia, there are so many mangoes that go rotten. Why can't you ask yourself, I'm sure you can do mango jam. Yeah, you don't need much. Why can't we ask ourselves that, look, why can't I do something? Preoccupy yourself every day with all these mango trees, that how can I pick this mango? What can I turn it into? Mangoes can be dried and sold, and this is premium. So, self-reliant is all about believing in oneself. Gomsa bopa, believing that you can do it, you can break the glass ceiling. And I urge we, the young ones who are here, that we should believe in ourselves.
So I have another question, Mr. Njai. What hinders one's prospects of becoming self-reliant?
I will now be very bold and blunt about this. It's laziness. Laziness, excuses. Because we're in Fonyi, I will tell you a story that the former president used to say, President Yahya Jammeh. He said when he was going to school, he used to cut firewood, and to pay for his fees. So really, and this was the norm, it wasn't only him. What hinders being self-reliant is being lazy, is being too much entitled, feeling that people owe it to you and you don't owe it to yourself. So that's my main answer. That let's stop the laziness, and I will just protrude into the issue of some of the vices that at times we attribute to laziness or whatever. Most of the time I hear things like, oh, they only sit on the corner and drink attire. There's nothing wrong in drinking attire. You see, we are sitting here now. You saw the cast. Mariama, I saw him. They didn't bring my second to me. I was looking like this. Please, the guy doing the attire, I want my second. I had my level, I want my second. There's nothing wrong. Even when I travel abroad, in Nigeria where I used to live, I lived there for a long time, I always have my brother and my cast. There's nothing wrong. It's drinking tea, like drinking coffee. What is bad that don't use your productive time to drink attire. You don't get up in the morning at 9 o'clock, first thing you do is you start drinking attire. That is wrong. But go to work, after work, yes, fine. You can drink your attire. Even if the type of work you are doing, somebody can bring the attire and bring the cast, there's nothing wrong in it. But please, don't sit under the mango tree and then rub your hair or whatever. No, they can be done with them. You know my hashtag, huh? Gambia for them, diakuya. So get up and work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njai. And of course, we were joined shortly by a personnel, an official from the Ministry of Interior, and he is the Deputy Permanent Secretary. And he is Mr. Cisse. Welcome, Mr. Cisse. All right. We were talking with your colleague there, Madam Inspector, and then we've been discussing how the relationship between the police and the citizen, especially the youth, would be enhanced. Because recently, I've told the relationship has not been that much cordial, and then it's due to one reason or the other. And she's been taking us through how we should go about enhancing that relationship and how to bridge some of the gaps that are hindering that progress. And of course, you're here from the Ministry of Interior. We would also want you to talk to us about peace and security here in the Gambia, especially between the security forces and the citizenry, in particular the youth. The relationship has been soured over some time now.
Okay, thank you, Madam. You've raised a very important and a relevant question. And as a ministry, I've been mandated to ensure peace and security and to protect lives and properties of the citizens. Then that's very relevant. Thank you. We have to have a basis of understanding of society first, that we are all one people and we agreed to have rules or what we call laws to govern a society. And in that agreement, we've entrusted a body that should ensure or see the how to call it, the enforcement of that law. And that's where you have the police force. And the police force also are guided by the same law that has given the citizens the rights to do certain things. And in doing so, understanding that already, that a country have laws, that is the constitution, and there is a body mandated to ensure that that constitution is being followed, and the law is being, people are law abiding, then the entire society have a role to ensure that everybody within the society have understanding of what these things are. And as we know we cannot live in a lawless society. Everybody has to, our rights need to be protected. And the relationship, we have to understand one thing, that either is the police or the entire security and us in the various walk of life, we all come from the same homes. In the morning, you wake up as a police officer, you go to work. I woke up there to go as a teacher. Somebody goes as a what? We are all brothers. Then therefore, there's no need to have what you call to be enemies. We are one people. And the police, there also, there are guidelines that also lead their operations. And they are not also mandated to abuse. Because I think like the problem was on the issue of abuse. Then people taking the law into their own hands as security personnel to deal with citizens in a way that was not acceptable. And that has created some grievance between the citizens and the police. But like it is everybody's responsibility to ensure that the laws are followed. Citizens need to be enlightened. If they know, they can put the police to task. Like today, if you are stopped by a police officer to say something like that, or ask you of something, you have the right to ask the officer, can you please identify yourself? If you do, then the police officer will gain consciousness immediately to know that the person I'm talking to is aware, and that will help a lot. But if you allow certain things to continue, we are all human, and human tendency will come to play to a level wherein individuals will take excess of a lot of things that are not right. But those that the relationship, like you said, we expect that there's this notion that the police are our enemy, they are there, whatever. But the youth, the police officers, most of them are youth already. And when they